Our next speaker is Francois Leblanc, who the architect who asked a question beforehand. And he's going to talk to us about 3D printing and how 3D printing might shift the way in which we manage the world economically. Francois.
Thank you very much. Okay. So yeah, we're going to have a little turn on technology, and that's where actually SHIRC multidisciplinary studies are colliding at some point, and I like to have a heated debate on that. So yes, I'm currently a researcher in architecture, and when I started my my research, I was very curious about what will be the impact of this technology called 3D printing, and what will have the impact in terms of design. As an architect, how we design for 3D printing. Do we still need designers? It was like the machine would print things itself. What I found in my research was actually much bigger than that, and I will go a bit further in that. I'm just going here. There we go. So what is 3D printing? Just a crash course 101. It was invented in the late 80s, and specifically linking a 3D model, the virtual model, with a machine that can 3D print, like here, a 3D object layer by layer, like 2D section, and create these like very intricate objects we've never been able to manufacture before. So in terms of design, it's like perfect. For crazy architects, it's even better. Now, what does it entail for an economy? Well, it's a bit different. Because we can do almost any kind of object with 3D printing. You don't need to change the machine. You just change the object and you pass it through the machine. So we can build like toys mostly today, but we're getting into car, plane, houses, cities. And so we really need to ask ourselves, is it a good thing to 3D print a city, or is it going to be a terrible nightmare? There's two reasons why we're talking about 3D printing today, because it's like 30 years now, and like suddenly the media are like, oh, very excited. Well, the first thing is that we found, well, there's this initiative that was founded by the MIT in 2005, so 10 years ago, called Fab Lab, which is a fabrication laboratories where you can find 3D printers and laser cutters. It's all like a kind of clean technology, and you could go there. It's community-based, and so go back to your community engagement. That's very important in this dissemination of knowledge. And it was grassroots, basically based on like local initiatives. People are non-benefit, and they just want to share and make you understand, learn, and how to use it, and be more sort of self-sufficient in a way. And that also was possible because we have social media, we have internet, and we can share this knowledge. You can share a 3D model through the web, and you can print it in the middle of Africa if there is a 3D printer there. And yes, there's a 3D printer in the middle of Africa. So what happened when you have this, when you create creative entrepreneurship? So people start to create things by their own. And in fact, it's quite disruptive, because you don't need a factory. You don't need to ship overseas. You don't need infrastructure. Basically, you can design something today and can produce it today, and it's ready. Like this cast from this student in architecture in California, he decided not to have this bulky cast, but just have a design one. So it's like fun instead of having this nice signature. And, so it was possible to do it the same days. Otherwise, you cannot wait three weeks to get a cast. What is going to happen in architecture? Well, it's fairly new. 3D printing in architecture is just starting, and you need to change change the material. Like 3D printing plastic houses is maybe not the best thing, but 3D printing concrete, what it actually entails. Well, that house was produced by the Chinese company Sunwing Corporation in late last year, and was basically the first prototype to say, well, it's actually possible, it's actually feasible, it's actually feasible to build it in 8 hours. And so what this actually can solve is all type of like natural disasters and earthquake, and actually was the reason why they print this prototype is like there's an earthquake, you can respond very quickly. You have the machine, you just design things, and what you can share also the design online, and all the community, not just like the local but the global community can help in the same time. So I think this technology can be very disruptive in this sense. And we all participate somehow in this project. Well, my research, I'm looking also in the sustainability of 3D printing. And there's a lot of possibility, like reducing waste, because it's additive, you don't cut, you don't mill, you don't create byproduct. That could remove like almost 30% of the waste in does it produce every day. And also you can create these intricate geometry that can remove almost 30% of material. So you can do more with less. You can help on natural disaster. And maybe the future of architecture, in this case, is not led in laboratories that are closed in university, but maybe more community-based, somewhere where everybody can help design and be a prosumer. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Francois. Do we have questions?
It's actually more of a comment, but I can remember when the 3D printer thing broke in the media, and we sort of discussed that with Trevor's talk, sorry, not Trevor's, Greg Trevor's talk. The first thing that people were concerned about was everyone's going to make plastic handguns that you can't detect in the airport. And I'm so struck by the fact that, no, the first response is to create creative new things. And I mean, as much as people are printing cactus puppies or weird toys, they're also doing really creative medical advances. They're doing really amazing things. And I'm very struck by the difference between the expectations of this new technology versus the realities, and I'd love to hear more. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's totally right, and I mean, this brings a lot of issue like intellectual property issues in terms of safety. We're just starting with like these, like let's say the plastic 3D printer that we see, that is the cheaper one, will not get into the handgun, for example. But now we can 3D print metal. My ring was printed in metal, and you can do something like a hip replacement, for example. You can start to build parts of an airplane. So we're getting into a very complex material that is more, that have more legal issues, let's say, because we can reproduce almost anything. We are also 3D printing leather, cells, organ. You know, when will you like patent a kidney that is 3D printed, or you know, so that's one part of the thing. But what I think is fascinating with 3D printing is suddenly we unleash an incredible amount of creativity in the society, and people that does not have like a master in architecture can actually design something, and they just because they have a digital literacy, and that goes back to what you were saying, is that if you're able to teach what to use, how to use properly this, say the software in this case, 3D model, then you have a community that can actually design and produce, like a do-it-yourself community or a maker community we call it today. Well, that can actually form, and I think that will happen by helping each other. It's really like, there's Fab Lab in Montreal. There's more than 1,000 Fab Lab in the world now, and they're all connected together. And so that is the incredible power of this technology with the social media and the wikis.
Someone has a burning question. We have a few seconds for it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. Really fascinating, really fascinating stuff. I was just curious if, I don't know if you've spent time thinking about this yet, but how might you see the university's role in connecting this massive growth of knowledge and its place in community more generally? How would you see the university fitting in with that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, actually, I'm not the head, but I'm the left arm of Fab Lab here in the School of Architecture, and I've been managing that Fab Lab for 4 years, and having students around. And I mean, I see the organization inside the university, but we need the implication of a grassroots movement, and people that really want, that are interested, and it's not with the students you're gonna, well, you can get with the student, but it's a very different type of community. Now, what is the role of university and teaching about 3D printing? I think it's about like speaking about what is the possibility of it. Let's say like sparking the imagination of people and say by producing some project and publishing it. And that's basically what I'm trying to do on my research also, is like, okay, it's a bit speculative in somehow some part, but you can go very far, and so you need to tell what we can do, and like, people will actually come up with projects and ideas, because I strongly believe that we live in a creative economy, and that's how the people are stimulated, and they have a lot of resources online. So I don't know if the university have a very strong role into teaching people in general, the public in general, but I think that it has to support a certain digital literacy. And that's very vague, but I don't know how to go further in this. But that's going to be the next 10 years. If we don't go like to a certain level of literacy, we're going to be a bit back on the international scene.
Please join me in thanking Francois.